Give it a couple of seconds. Okay. Hello there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Specifically not of all ages, just because we're an 18 plus podcast. Welcome to episode 3 of Galactic TableTalk, the Star Wars podcast run in conjunction with the Gamers Lair gaming community. Basically giving you a slice of Star Wars goodness not every Sunday, but like every other Sunday. I'm your host, Loggers109. Joining me, as always, is a man who appears to be back in his humble home. He doesn't seem to be coming from a motel room in a galaxy far, far away. It's Apollo. Apollo, what's going on, my man?
Hello there. Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy Apollo, number one Call of Duty God, with another Star Wars podcast. How y'all doing today? Glad to be back. We're gonna be discussing a little bit today. We're gonna see how it goes. But chat, let us know how y'all doing today. Let's go ahead and get it going. All right.
Yeah.
No respect to you, bro.
Indeedy. So with this, the homework that we set in place for last week's episode was watching the Prequel Trilogy. But I'd sort of I decided to mix things up a little bit because episode 3, the events that go on in sort of like towards the finale of season 7 of the Clone Wars, they tie in quite well with episode 3 itself. And also because I didn't begin my rewatch of the Prequel Trilogy until last night. And so I was literally just of a case of, we might maybe put Revenge of the Sith off for sort of like a later episode, and it just so happens that it falls in conjunction with the events that go into the finale in the final season of the Clone Wars. So, on today's episode, we are going to be talking about episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, as I said just a second ago, I did a rewatch of both movies. I did a rewatch of The Phantom Menace last night, and then I did a rewatch of Attack of the Clones late morning into the early afternoon of today. And I've not seen either of these movies in a good few years, actually.
Wow.
I remember I've seen Revenge of the Sith at the very least in the past year or 18 months or so. But I mean, like Phantom Menace, God, it's probably been like a good decade or something like that since I've last seen it. And then Attack of the Clones just pretty much was. I'm pretty certain I've seen before. A little bit sooner than that. Apollo, like I realize you being the naughty student that you are, you're doing your homework as we're doing the broadcast at the moment. That's me. Do you have any? Have you watched any of these movies particularly recently, or more recently than I have?
No, actually, back in December, I was bored, or I was actually on a Star Wars binge. So what was it? Oh, wait. Yeah. So when I came back home in December, I was actually watching every piece of Star Wars. I was watching everything. God damn it. Someone in the comment section. Well, all right. Now we interrupted everything, so I gotta say hello. What's up, Gaming Burger? How you doing today, bro? Thanks for the little comment. Anyway, so I actually watched all the Star Wars back in November, December. I dove deep into watching the Clone Wars. I didn't watch the Clone Wars until November, and along with season 7 of the Clone Wars. And then like I said, I was after The Mandalorian. That was when I started watching actually all of the movies. So it's pretty recently that I watched all the movies. So yeah, I've actually noticed a lot more. There's a lot more stuff that there's a lot more stuff you understand especially after the Clone Wars. Yeah, after watching the Clone Wars, you understand episode 1 and 2 a lot more.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah.
I picked up quite a fair bit because I did the thing of like making notes that I regularly do when I'm doing sort of like, you know, podcasts that require you to like write stuff down. You know, if you're reviewing like a particular TV series, or like a lot in my case, because I'm a wrestling fan, you watch like loads of wrestling shows, and sometimes you need to make notes because it's like, it can be like 2.5 hours. But I made sort of like little notes here and there for each episode. And literally, just as I mentioned to you just before we came on air, ironically, I made 1 page of notes for the Phantom Menace, and I made 2 pages of notes for Attack of the Clones, which works out quite well from sort of like a chronological standpoint.
Hey guys, if you're wondering how many notes I've written, 0.
Big fat donut. Yo, what's up, Kate?
I don't do
what's up,
homework.
Paul? What's up, Warwolf? Yeah, I can tell.
Because
you were like,
I'm legit watching the Phantom Menace right now. If you see me turning right, that's because I'm watching the Phantom Menace right now.
Because it was literally the case of sort of like we were setting up, ready to go live, and Apollo just went, "I've got something to confess to you. I'm watching the Phantom Menace right now." I was like, "Oh, really? What bit are you up to?" It's like the bit where the bit where they meet Anakin. I was like, "Right, okay, so you're not even halfway through the movie then."
No. Right now, currently Qui-Gon just he's actually talking with Shmi about Anakin, saying who the hell he is.
Right. Okay. Right.
Apollo is hopeless. He's damn right. I'm in the army.
That's why he's not. That's why he's not in control of the ship. That's why you've got me, because I'm competent at least sort of like 75% of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I'm not meaning to kick you when you're still down, but you know.
So, guys, if you're wondering, if you notice the background, or back in town, but only till tomorrow. But after next week, I'm actually coming back home for good. So get ready for that pretty soon. We're going to be doing a lot more very, very soon. So stay tuned. A lot more podcasts, and I'm pretty sure we're going to make the Star Wars podcast a reoccurring thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And another,
as Paul and Wolf have sort of like pointed out, it seems that I'm the only competent one in the group, because Wolf has said he hasn't watched them either, but he remembers bits and pieces. Well, I'm hoping that I at least can be somewhat enlightening in your sort of like, you know, your watch back if you didn't do your homework. So episode 1, Phantom Menace. I think I would probably always have a soft spot for this movie because it was the very first Star Wars movie that I ever saw. Came out in 1999, so I'll have been probably like 6 or 7 years old or something like that. And as I've mentioned on sort of like previous podcasts, it was literally just a case of, whoa, pod racing. Whoa, Darth Maul looks cool. Whoa, this lightsaber fight is awesome. But in sort of like in going back and watching it, I don't know whether it's because it's like a particular, like an anniversary edition that they've put onto Disney Plus, or whether it's like, well, it probably is an anniversary edition that they've got on Disney Plus, because there are things that I picked up whilst watching this, as well as with Attack of the Clones as well. So that there's little bits here and there that they've added that I think work quite well. I mean, sort of like to jump forward, specifically to when they get to Tatooine, they're in need of a new hyperdrive generator. The only way that they're gonna get this hyperdrive generator is by entering themselves into a pod race, and it so happens that the young shop boy that works for Watto, who has the only hyperdrive generator whole of Tatooine, basically, is basically a pod racer, and he's commented of having sort of like lightning fast reflexes, sort of akin to, you know, that would, akin to sort of like Jedi reflexes.
Mhm.
And I always remember watching it originally, like particularly sort of like, the setup to the pod race and the pod race itself, of it being, fairly cool. And,
Mhm.
Anakin, it does his job of being like a really good pod racer, but there's little bits and pieces that they've added to it. Like there's a specific scene, like I think about just under the halfway point in the actual pod race itself, where one of the cables that attaches to Anakin's pod that sort of like links up to one of the engines, it comes loose, and his pod is literally like pirouetting in midair, sort of like going around in circles and circles and circles. And he actually competently gets it under control, fishes it over, and reconnects it back, and gets right back into the race. And I think it's like that's quite a nice touch, because it shows that it's sort of like, yes, he's young, yes, he may be sort of like a bit overzealous, but he does actually have some skill to him. I actually think that was quite a nice little touch that they added.
Mm-hmm.
They added really.
You're talking about what was that pod racer put on again? Was it
Sebulba? Sebulba was the main rival, unless you were talking about.
No, I'm talking about like later on in the story. They used the pod racer. They used the pod racer again. A piece of it. What was?
The only time I can think of like part of the pod racer being used was in the Mandalorian. If that's what.
I think that's it.
That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's outrightly confirmed that it actually is like a piece of Anakin's pod racer, although it could be. I'm not 100% certain. I like Paul's comment. He's a stupid child, but he's not a truly stupid child. Yeah, no way.
And also, certain someone is off on the 17th still. Who's joining me for some drinks? Sounds like someone already opened a tab.
Yeah, I can tell you specifically what is happening on the 17th, because that's the date of St. Patrick's Day that me and Paul both have off. So yeah, I'll probably be there. It would usually be a yearly tradition of me and Paul going into the centre of Liverpool, just getting absolutely plastered drunk throughout the day. But anyway, getting back on.
I want to go to English pub. Sorry to get out track, but I want to go to English pub. There's one down the street from me, actually. I've only been to it once, but I want to give it a try. Yeah.
Well, Berger, if this podcast sounds interesting, this is probably the best thing of sort of like, jumping on. It's probably like a good jumping on point, because this is sort of like one of the things I really wanted to do with this podcast, in terms of sort of like, branching out. If you're sort of like maybe a Lapsed fan or somebody that hasn't really gotten interested in Star Wars specifically, I like to think that this would be sort of like a good introduction, or like a good jumping on point that we can suggest like good stuff for you. But yeah, getting back to actually Anakin himself. I know that the actor who plays child Anakin, Jake Lloyd, has got like sort of like criticisms for him. And does he give like a flawless, perfect performance? No. There's bits and pieces with his dialogue, particularly with sort of like, he'll say something and he'll give an afterthought of "I think" or "I hope." But
he's a kid.
Yeah, well, I know he's a kid, and to be honest with you, like bar those like couple of bits here and there, I actually think he does a really good fucking job. I think it's really, really good, and I never thought of that before, doing these rewatches, because I was always literally of a case of, he's okay, he serves his purpose, but it's fine.
Well, it's the same thing with Anakin. Even as a grown up, the way he talks.
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. It's just the way he talks, and that's the way he's written. People hate on it, but it's just the way he's written. And people that say he talks in monotone, well, that's kind of how Vader talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Oh, that's quite nice. I never made that connection until you just said it. Was sort of like,
Yeah.
ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I was
Sort of
like,
plays into his character.
Vader talks in monotone, and yeah, so does Anakin.
That plays into his favor quite a little bit. I must say, as much as a fan of Obi-Wan Kenobi, I am. Go back to sort of like us making our list from the last episode.
Mhm.
I can understand why Qui-Gon Jinn gets the love that he does, because Liam Neeson is great in this role. Really, really, really great.
Yeah.
And it sort of illustrates the point to me of sort of what could have been had Qui-Gon Jinn survived the Duel of the Fates. Because I mean, we'll get into it when we talk about Attack of the Clones, but goddamn, he gets Anakin from sort of like an emotional basis without getting too too lovey-dovey, I'll say.
Yeah.
There's very much sort of like an understanding there, and there's very much like there's like a little quote that Obi-Wan gives when they get back to Coruscant. And it's when Anakin's been put through sort of like his initiating trial, I should say, by the Jedi Council. And Obi-Wan literally just makes the comment of saying sort of like, if you were to follow the code, you'd literally be on the Jedi Council. And Qui-Gon's literally a fact of, well, no, because, I don't truly believe in the code. Because that's always a case of, that's always a thing that happens with particularly the Jedi pre-Order 66, is that they get too political, they get too bogged down in sort of like, rules and mandates and stuff like that.
The Jedi got too involved in politics, and the Jedi got too involved in politics, and they were so arrogant that, well, they were their own demise.
Yeah, they lose sight of what they
hold up,
of what they're truly meant to be doing.
Can you shut the fuck up? Can you hear that?
Yeah, it's military police coming to get you, mate.
God damn.
Doggy's just appeared in the stream. Hi,
Hey, what up, doggy? How's it going? Nice to see you. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was like, the Jedi got so involved in politics, and they were so blinded by the arrogance that, well, no wonder they end up getting fucking killed, basically. And also another thing with that is they had a chance to stop everything before it even got bigger than. They had a chance to stop it multiple times, but I don't know why they didn't.
There's a specific scene coming up in Attack of the Clones. Obviously, we'll talk to when we get it. But I think it's literally just a case of they're not seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I think it's literally just a case of, they think they've got the situation under control when they don't have a full grasp of what the situation is actually. They've only got sort of like a partial look at what the situation is. That's what I think, anyway. Yeah. But we will get to it. The one problem that I had with the movie itself, is obviously the political bit, because the political bit is, it's not what you want to see in Star Wars. But literally, even then, it only lasts like 5, maybe 10 minutes or so, and it is balanced out quite nicely with the, they've come from Tatooine, having sort of like to Coruscant to deliver Queen Amidala, so they can basically put the whole thing to the Senate of like stopping the Trade Federation from sort of like invading. It's basically putting a kibosh on the invasion of Naboo. And I can't remember what I was going to say then. Can't remember. It's gone. But yeah, that's the only real nitpick that I have with it. But even then, like Amidala voting no confidence in sort of like the Chancellor elect. Then, it's all being influenced by Palpatine. It's all still being influenced by Palpatine, and I never knew
you know
never
the thing?
knew.
Oh god. Like
I
another
never
thing,
knew that. I never knew that Palpatine was the representative for Naboo.
you didn't
I
know that?
never knew that. No, I
Wow.
didn't.
Oh
Because
yeah, then so then
as I
again,
say,
I didn't. Yeah.
been years since I've watched this film.
Mhm.
So
Then again,
that's another little thing I picked up.
yeah. No, I watched, like I said, when I watched it last month. That was when I was like, oh, I didn't know who Chancellor Valar. I don't know how to say his name. Valorum, I think.
Valor, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in this movie. I didn't know. I was like, Chancellor
Yeah,
Valorum.
played by Terrence Stamp as well, who's quite like a known person in sort of like Hollywood.
So like I didn't know Chancellor Valorum was in the show. I mean in the movie. I didn't know that. And then I didn't know like I didn't pay attention that he was a senator controlling everything basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. And then even the was it the Queen, I think?
It's
what was
the decoy
the decoy.
as Padme
Yeah.
calls her. She's
She-
actually do you know who she's played by?
Mm-mm.
Keira Knightley.
Who's that?
You know who was probably the most like mainstream thing that she did she was Elizabeth Swann in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
I haven't. Oh, you're so being real. I haven't seen Pirates of the Caribbean in years.
Oh well, but that's the most mainstream thing that she's done. But yeah, I was aware through sort of like research sort of like years and years ago that it was her. But
so another thing, in an important line, she says, "This is where democracy dies." I don't know if you noticed that one. When she said that, I was like,
which in a way it does.
It did die. That's what happened because the Chancellor ended up getting the ultimate powers, and also they should have fucking Jar Jar Binks, bro.
We'll get to it. But actually, one of the things when Valorum gets basically removed as Chancellor, obviously there's nominees. Palpatine's one of them.
Yeah.
Another one is described as Bail Antilles from Alderaan, and I was thinking, oh, is that? And I thought of like two things. It's like either this is Bail Organa, but they decided to change his name sort of like later on, or this is like a completely different character, but is in relation to Wedge Antilles, in sort of like the original trilogy. Which fun fact as well, is the uncle of Ewan McGregor, who plays young Obi-Wan Kenobi in this.
Oh wow!
In this trilogy. Yeah. Stuff you find out when you watch the behind the scenes stuff. I actually did some research into this, and he was Bail Organa's predecessor. So basically, when Bail Antilles lost out and sort of like becoming Chancellor, Bail Organa basically took on his role as being the Senate representative of Alderaan. Just a little thing here and there. Yeah. I must say, bar like maybe I'd probably say bar the Gungan droid battle in the back, the great big massive battlefield in Naboo.
Yeah.
The last like half an hour of the movie is fucking mad. It's freaking mad. It's basically being fought on. It's like four fronts. So you basically got sort of like Padme and her entourage basically fights to the throne room to basically relieve Newt Gunray. Yeah. You've got the great big massive space battle to basically take down the droid army that's amassing against the Gungans.
Yep.
On this great big massive battle plane on Naboo, which is free. And then you've got the fourth, which is the Duel of the Fates duel with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul, which honestly, it's still one of my favorite duels. In all
that's up there. It's a pretty great duel. Yeah, that's top 5, and it's it's the thing though. Like when you watch all for the prequels and then the Clone Wars, like the prequels become so much better because of the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the Clone Wars, though.
Yeah.
That's why I always think sort of like, little bits and pieces here and there that are sort of like, seem out of place in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
They're expanded on a hell of a lot more in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, I feel.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, so episode 2 used to be my worst Star Wars before the sequel. This is before the sequels. So
understand.
Yeah. So my favorite Star Wars were episode 3, 6, 3, 6, 4, maybe 4, 5. Actually, yeah, 4, 5, 1, and 2. But then watching the Clone Wars,
the sequels came along.
Yeah,
just saying the sequels came along.
Actually, you know what? I can't even do that. I was like, The Force Awakens it's not better than the Phantom Menace because it doesn't give me what I want. It's beautiful. I'm not going to deny that, but it doesn't give me what exactly I want. Even if it is almost like A New Hope, but even then it doesn't give me what I want. But then then you got the rest of those, whatever they're called. So, but yeah, now like I can't. I maybe Phantom Menace, maybe the worst. No, fuck, I can't even say that.
I wouldn't say that.
I can't say that because
I wouldn't say that, to be honest with you.
Like, Darth Maul became a character that was amazing. He became like, even in his death, it's like you kind of wanted to cry because you feel bad for him.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but like, I mean, even if you're looking at these movies as sort of like standalone,
yeah,
I would still say that Phantom Menace is better than Attack of the Clones, and obviously I'll get onto my problems with Attack of the Clones when we get to it.
Okay.
But just to lead into sort of like the next point I've got, so the whole thing with sort of like these great big massive battles towards the end, obviously, Padme gains control of her throne room. Anakin, through pure fluke, really. It's pure fluke that he ends up in an aircraft that basically, autopilot takes him to the Trade Federation ship.
Yeah.
He somehow ends up in one of the hangars.
Yeah.
He's meaning to take out like a load of droids and just like aims freaking missiles at like the fuel reactor or whatever. But he does destroy the great big massive Trade Federation ship, which in turn knocks out all the droid army. And then sort of like the last bit was sort of like the Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan is successful in defeating Maul, but in the process of defeating Maul, he kills Qui-Gon. And it's just basically on his deathbed asking Obi-Wan to sort of like make sure that Anakin gets trained.
Yeah.
So also there's a little bit here as well. It's after Palpatine gets elected as Chancellor, he's sort of like, commending Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he also does the same for Anakin. And it's just like a little line here of sort of like, we'll be watching your career with great interest. I was like, I bet you fucking will, you. But yeah.
Like, did you see that meme I shared the other day? Hold on. I'll find it. It's the exact same thing. Hold on, I gotta look for this one. It goes exactly with that scene. Fuck, where's it at? Sorry, guys. Oh, there it is. It says, "We'll watch your career with great interest. Stay away from politicians, Anakin." Yes, master. And that. Try to. Hold on. All right. I don't think it's going to. But yeah.
No. I think we get it. I love it. It's basically one of those sort of like, do this action. Okay. End credits. It's one of those memes.
Really, Star Wars. If like this many times where if someone would have opened their mouth, then we wouldn't have all the stuff that happened. Basically.
So the point I want to get to is obviously like a load of the Jedi come over to Naboo to basically be present during the flaming burial or the cremation of Qui-Gon. But before that ceremony, Yoda and Obi-Wan are just basically having a chat. And Yoda's just there sort of like, we will grant you the rank of sort of like Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
So he's basically going from Padawan status to Jedi Knight status.
Yep.
And he's literally just of a case. Yoda's adamant that Anakin will not be trained, and there's sort of like there's an essence of Qui-Gon in sort of like the response that Obi-Wan gives, because it's just sort of like a case of, I made a pledge to Qui-Gon, and I will train him with or without the Council's blessing. Yeah. And it's almost is sort of like, Yoda almost has to sort of like admit defeat and just sort of like give into it. But I love during sort of like the ending sequence of this bit, I don't know whether it's been added on or not, because I can't remember it from when I originally watched it, the Darth Vader theme's going on in the background. That's a really nice little touch. Really nice.
I didn't notice that. I'll probably notice it in about 30, 40 minutes once it's in.
When you get round to it.
Another thing with that part, I was gonna say, it's kind of weird to see Obi-Wan like fight back, because he's by the Jedi, he's by the book.
Yeah, that's why I was saying there was a whisper of sort of like Qui-Gon in sort of like his response to it, because
that's kind of weird, because Qui-Gon and Anakin easily would say that, or Ahsoka too would easily say that.
But you can never see it. You can never see Obi-Wan saying that.
No.
Yeah, definitely. So the flaming cremation of Qui-Gon, I thought it was quite reminiscent of Episode 6.
Yeah.
With sort of like, the cremation of another popular character. And then the last little note that I've got here is, obviously the edition that they've got on Disney Plus features CGI Yoda. Yoda that sort of like, is prominent from like Episode 2 and Episode 3. That kind of Yoda. Whereas I'm pretty certain they had like I don't know, would you say like a puppet or, I don't know how you would describe it, because I definitely remember in the original sort of like it was the Yoda that they used definitely wasn't CGI.
Yeah,
definitely wasn't CGI, and there was for the most part he sort of fitted in quite nicely, but the ending scene where sort of like basically the Gungans and the people of Naboo are just basically coming together and sort of like bringing peace to the whole planet, he looks so out of place. It literally just looks as if they've sort of like cropped Puppet Yoda out and plonked him in. It's just sort of like, that looks acceptable. It's like, no, it doesn't. It looks shite. Looks really shit.
Who looks shitty? What's her name? Yaddle.
Oh, Yaddle. Yeah.
She looks pretty shitty. She looks like Yoda on crack bought off Wish.
We'll get onto Yoda on some kind of drug in a second. But yeah, my final thoughts of Phantom Menace, I enjoyed it a lot more than I remember I had.
Yeah.
Because I think it helps sort of like, being a little bit older, sort of like realizing the sort of like the backstories and sort of like the little bits here and there that very much add to the story being told. I don't think there was an appreciation for it. Yeah. The first time around that I watched it, but obviously I was going to be like that when I originally watched it because I was a kid and I took no interest in sort of like, the deep context of lines being said in films at the time.
Yeah. No,
Wolf, I do not want to buy any death sticks.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
But I am home. Okay. So that was the Phantom Menace. And now we're going to get on to Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
Which, again, is another film that is shed quite a lot with criticism. And I think that there is valid criticism here and there. Like, particularly, I'm just going to come out and say this. I realize he's one of your favorite characters, Apollo, but Anakin Skywalker in this movie is a fucking creep 90% of the time. He's so creepy.
Well, I mean, you look at the relationship, it's not the best.
It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad relationship. When you watch Clone Wars, it's like, why?
It seems a lot more natural.
Yeah. Well, no, even in the Clone Wars, it's still like kind of cringy. Yes, they love each other, but they're still cringy.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Episode 2, Anakin for sure is definitely cringy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't really help with some of the dialogue that that Hayden Christensen is given to say.
That is true.
Particularly cringy one that I have is when they've been flirting outrageously on Naboo, and Anakin has the line of, "I'm haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me." But I mean, sort of like it sort of works because by what happens by the end of this movie. What I have in my what I quite liked about this film, and it's a shame that they couldn't really do it anymore, is Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen have really good chemistry together. They've got really good chemistry together because there's a particular scene early on where they're basically chasing an assassin that's tried to assassinate Padme, and there's a great little bit where can't remember what I was going to say then. As Anakin's just basically in sort of like this speeder, this decked out speeder that's pretty much like an open top convertible or something like that, and he's just basically caught Obi-Wan out of the sky, and Obi-Wan's like, "What took you?" And it's like, "Well, Master, I couldn't find a speeder that I liked. I needed someone that was fast and needed open top." Obi-Wan comes back with sort of like, if you practice your fighting technique as much as you did your wit, you'd be a better swordsman than Master Yoda. And Anakin's literally just a case of sort of like going, "Oh, I thought I already was." And Obi-Wan just quick as a whip, just comes back, "Only in your mind."
They're both smart asses. Well, mainly obviously Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's the biggest smart ass, which is fucking amazing.
He is the biggest smart ass, and he's a bit of it. Well, he's quite demeaning. He is quite demeaning of Anakin. Yeah. In such a way that you could never see sort of like Qui-Gon doing that.
Well, even what's his name? Guinness. What was his? Yeah.
Alec Guinness?
Yeah, Alec Guinness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a smart ass as well. And he's still a smart ass, and he was a smart ass to Luke. At first.
Well, that was the whole thing of when Ewan McGregor took on the part. Is he basically went back, watched a load of like old Alec Guinness stuff, and thought, I'll just be a younger version of him. Yeah, and it works really well as like Wolf's the chat earlier on, when they basically they go to the bar and sort of like Obi-Wan's getting a drink and that, and some like random drug dealer comes up to him and is like, "You want to buy some death sticks?" He's like, "You don't want to sell me death sticks."
He is the grumpy uncle who took in a kiddo because of a death in the family was forced on him. He was always 50-50 about it. How I see him, at least. Yeah.
That's the only
he didn't take care of him.
Well, the only reason that he took Anakin on as an apprentice was because Qui-Gon asked him to on his deathbed. Mm-hmm. And he's just sort of like, well, he's literally one of those who sort of like sticks to his morals. Yeah. So. Yeah, and there's multiple times throughout this movie that sort of like Anakin relates to Obi-Wan as a father, but you don't really see sort of like the father and son relationship between them. They are very much sort of like estranged brothers who, they do get on to an extent, but there is some sort of like butting of heads. quite a lot.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's more of a brotherly relationship, not a father to son relationship.
Yeah.
So,
I found it quite interesting. I found it quite interesting that there was a bit where, Anakin and Padme, they're both toying with the idea of, possibly having a secret relationship, just basically sort of like keeping it under wraps. Padme doesn't agree with it, sort of like, living a lie, basically.
Yeah.
And Anakin, to a certain extent, agrees, because he drops the line of, "No, you're right. It would destroy us," which is, world building for future
Wow,
film.
I didn't notice that. That's actually pretty interesting because
Yeah. This movie also has the debuts of not debuts for Boba at least, but it has a debut for his father, Jango Fett, which will be fairly important as we go through looking at other like Star Wars media. There's a great little line that I picked up during the space battle between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, and it's basically when Jango is so it starts off like Jango's fleeing to the planet of Geonosis. Obi-Wan's following him. There's like a tangle in an asteroid field, and it works out. Jango's able to sort of like get behind Obi-Wan. And he just basically sort of like starts blaster firing at him. And there's a little line from Obi-Wan that's just sort of like going, "Blast! This is why I hate flying," which is ironic because in the exact same sort of like speeder chase that we were given near the start of the movie, Anakin makes the comment of going to Obi-Wan. He's like, "I forgot you don't like flying," and Obi-Wan's like, "I don't mind flying, but with you at the wheel, it's like suicidal." And it's just literally there. It's like, pointing out your own hypocrisy there, mate. But I guess it's okay because there's no one really around, sort of like counteract it.
Yeah. That what's called that scene in we're talking about in Attack of the Clones during that scene with Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. Ear orgasm for sure.
Yeah.
With the seismic charges. Yeah. And it was
the seismic charges.
Yeah.
I love the seismic charges. Really do.
No, like watching that in The Mandalorian, like, oh shit. Yo,
it's literally one of those just sort of like, wait for it. Ah,
yeah.
It's like the Star Wars version of ASMR.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. It was just so amazing.
So after another nightmare dream about his mother, also love that Anakin and Padme, they take a trip over to Tatooine to obviously find Anakin's mother. They find that she's been kidnapped by Tusken Raiders literally a month previously. That's how close Obi-Wan. That's how close Anakin was.
Yeah,
it's like literally a case of sort of like, if he'd been having these dreams, if Qui-Gon was his master, you can imagine Qui-Gon going, "Yeah, let's go to Tatooine. Let's go to Tatooine. Let's go find your mother." But it's literally just a case because it's Obi-Wan is sort of like, you have to quash your feelings because you're a Jedi now, and it's just sort of like political side of the Jedi rearing its ugly head.
Do you think the Chancellor was playing with his dreams?
Possibly. Well, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it because even before Anakin gets the assignment of going to protect Padme, he just basically visits with Palpatine, and Palpatine, mentions a sort of I can't remember whether it's Palpatine or Anakin, but I think it's Anakin because he makes a point of saying sort of like you've been a trusted you've been a trusted guide of sort of like wisdom and guidance. So it seems to me that he's always sort of like, from a very early age, he's sort of like been in his ear. Yeah. So it wouldn't really doubt me if he sort of like, planted those dreams into Anakin. And it sort of works. Well, it very much works in his favor because, Anakin Anakin goes to find this, Tusken camp, finds his mother, literally dies in her arms.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much sort of like the first true scene that Anakin lets his rage consume him. And I mean, I must say, like, he gets criticism for his performance, but Hayden Christensen in this entire scene, sort of like, going from, heartbreak, sadness into rage. It's a great scene. Really great scene. And he really plays his part really, really well. And I love as well that they transition from there of Yoda through the Force, feeling sort of like Anakin lash out this anger, and he has the thing of sort of like conversing with Mace Windu, of sort of like young Skywalker is in pain, terrible pain, and while he's saying this, once again, the Darth Vader theme tune is in the background. Just that it's so great the way it's sort of like it I don't want to say it builds, but it's just sort of like it keeps teasing.
Yeah,
it does keep you. That's what these two films I've noticed from sort of like rewatching recently. They do a great job of like teasing future events, cataclysmic events. Now, you were getting out of, when we were talking about Phantom Menace earlier, you were talking about Jar Jar and the fact that there's like, bits and pieces that he basically hands all emergency power over to Palpatine. And, but through my rewatching, again, it's manipulation from Palpatine again, because it's just after Obi-Wan reports his findings on Geonosis.
Yeah.
And he's basically cornered by droidekas and Geonosian soldiers and is basically captured. And, all the politicians in the room with Palpatine, they're there sort of like, we have to approve this sort of like this clone army. And they're just sort of like going, well, the Senate will never sort of, approve the clone army. The only thing that would happen would be an active member of the Senate, a representative of the Senate, would have to give emergency power over to Palpatine. And there's a little thing that is sort of like Palpatine's aide says, of sort of like going, if only Senator Amidala was here. And it's quite noteworthy, because Jar Jar, who was he was basically given the role that Padme had before she went in sort of like a leave of absence, is in the room at the time. So it's very much directed in his direction of just sort of like, the little thing of manipulation. And you just see, because it cuts to a shot of Jar Jar and he's there just going, So it's not like a case of like Jar Jar being an idiot. And trust me, there is subsequent evidence of Jar Jar being an idiot for the entirety of Star Wars. But he was manipulated. Well, he was manipulated, because that's the great thing that Palpatine is able to do. No matter who you are, he's able to manipulate people.
Yeah,
so of course he's going to go after the weakened and less intelligent Gungan.
Well, like I said, he's a politician, so just like American politicians, they know how to manipulate. Y'all's are pretty bad too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not going to say anything about politics, because I know that our particular politics are fucking useless, much like American politics. Politics, I should say. Again, another thing that I never really knew. Well, I didn't know to a certain extent. Going back and watching this, came up in my favorite scene in the movie. That's sort of like, where Obi-Wan's just basically being held in stasis, and Dooku comes into the room for two reasons, really. One, it's a combination of sort of like two actors that I'm really, really fond of, that being Ewan McGregor and Christopher Lee. And also it's sort of like, there's two great things that we get from it. Like, first one being, I'd forgotten that Dooku was Qui-Gon Jinn's master.
I thought it.
I completely forgot that because I always remember sort of like hearing
okay,
it.
Okay. Oh, never mind.
Never
So you said Dooku was Qui-Gon's master. No. Yeah.
Dooku's Qui-Gon's master, and Yoda was
trained Dooku.
Dooku's trained Dooku. So it basically goes like Yoda trained Dooku trained Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan trained Anakin.
Yeah.
So it's quite a nice sort of like, extended. Well, I wouldn't say extended timeline, but it's a nice little timeline. It's sort of like,
it's also a cool. It's also a cool thing. Like I'm sure you've seen this too around on social media, but like all three of the villains are Anakin into one. Suffering, a cyborg, and then a fallen Jedi.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's quite deep. That's quite deep.
Yeah. So Maul, he's obviously he's always full of hate and suffering. Dooku, he was a turned Jedi because he didn't believe. That's the thing. I don't think Dooku's evil. I don't think he's evil.
No, because there's another reason why I quite like this scene is sort of like, Dooku just basically comes out and says it to Obi-Wan and sort of like there's a Dark Lord of the Sith that's controlling the Senate.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking of it at the time, sort of like, why is he revealing all this stuff to Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
And then I sort of like thinking about it, I was like, I'm wondering if this is Dooku testing whether the Jedi is going to take this threat seriously or not. And it turns out by the end of the movie that they don't see it as a particular immediate threat. Because they're all wrapped up with sort of like the Clone War, that the focus gets taken off, the possibility of there being a Sith Lord in the middle in basically controlling the Senate.
Yeah.
Which I found it was quite interesting. Really was quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Like
but evidence. Yeah.
Like I don't think Count Dooku is evil, and I think he knew who Sidious was, so I think eventually it's gonna be Chancellor Palpatine, he always had his eye on Anakin, so he would have tried to kill Dooku eventually, and Dooku knew that, so it was like
it's always a way with sort of like the Sith of the Master is inevitably killed by the apprentice.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty certain that, Dooku saw that. And there would have been a time and place where he would have exacted sort of like, do what any good Sith does. Do what any good Sith does. Another great little bit of bantering back and forwards between Anakin and Obi-Wan. When they're sort of like they're chained up in the Grand Arena on Geonosius. Geonosius. And like Obi-Wan's sort of like chained up, sort of like being prepared for execution, and Anakin and Padme are just basically sort of like being put in place. And Obi-Wan's just sort of like there going, I was beginning to think if you got my message, and Anakin's like, we transmitted your instructions just like you said, Master. There's a bit of a pause. He sort of like looks off, and then he goes, then we decided to come and rescue you. And Obi-Wan, who's sort of like chained up just above, just sort of like looks and goes, "Good job." Again, love the little banter, love the little banter back and forth. So there's a little bit where a Jedi-led team led by Mace Windu with the purple lightsaber. It's fucking cool. There's a reason why I had purple as sort of like the color scheme going on today, because I thought it was cool. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a few future Clone Wars characters that pop up in like this Jedi party.
Yeah.
one that gets a significant little bit, very much later on, because one of my favorite characters, C-3PO, it sort of like gets in a way where his head is basically cut off from his body. So one of the B2, is it B1 or B2?
It's B1. B2 battle
I think
droids.
it's B1 or B2. So
B2
one of the B2 battle droids basically has like one of the heads is connected to C-3PO body.
Yeah.
And C-3PO is attached to a B1 battle droid.
Yeah.
And it's just like a great bit. Sort of like 3PO like going along, just sort of like, shooting all over the place. It's just sort of like, I'm terribly sorry. I don't want to be doing this. And then it's Kit Fisto, who has a predominant role, sort of like the Clone Wars show, as do a lot of the Jedi that feature in sort of like that. But it's just basically he's part of the ones sort of like knocking him down.
So, did you see the one in the black hoodie?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's Paris Offie.
Is she an Inquisitor?
No, it's Luminara's Padawan. I don't know. I don't think she becomes an Inquisitor, but I know that she has like a vital part to play in something that happens with Ahsoka.
Yeah,
I know she has a pivotal part to play in something that happens in the Clone Wars with Ahsoka. But I don't think she becomes an Inquisitor.
Because she looks like it. She looks like it.
Yeah. I mean, she might do. She might do. I just probably need to do some research. One thing that I picked up as well, I don't know whether it's the Geonosians themselves, but they have sort of like the original design plans for the Death Star.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking, was it the Geonosians that sort of like, had a hand in sort of like, planning out the Death Star? Or it could be sort of like,
they built it, remember? So remember in season 4 of the Rebel, or season 3, I can't remember. It's either late season 3 or the beginning of season 4 of the Rebels. That's where they were doing that. The Geonosians were actually making the Death Star.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right. It's been quite a while. Been quite a while since I watched Rebels, so maybe that'll come when we do our watch through.
Like obviously I hate the Geonosians because they're the enemy in the Clone Wars, but then you feel bad for them because the Empire wiped out a lot of their species.
I was gonna say, did the Geonosians pop up a lot in Clone Wars? Because I only seem to remember that they pop up a couple of times.
Yeah, they popped up a lot.
Okay.
They were there in the Clone Wars, but then the Empire came killed them.
Yeah, I know they were in the Clone Wars. I just didn't know if they were specifically featured quite a lot.
Yeah,
I only remember them in a couple of episodes here and there, which I think is a shame because I actually think they could be sort of like a very decent, prominent, bad guy. Bad guy race. I feel they could have been utilized a lot more. One of the things basically the clones are introduced. They come and rescue the Jedi. Anakin and Obi-Wan just basically go in pursuit of Dooku. Dooku's just pretty much like outmatches both Obi-Wan and Anakin because Anakin decides to jump in too quickly instead of following Obi-Wan's lead and gets shocked early on. So that takes him out of commission while Obi-Wan gets schooled by Dooku. Gets a couple of hits, one to the arm, one to the leg, and then Anakin comes in. It's quite like it's very much sort of like a simple duel that Anakin and Dooku have, where they just basically have sort of like portrait shots of everybody of each of them, and then they just have like blue and red flashing lights go up. So there's next to no sort of like effort needed from either of them.
Yeah,
like a couple of exterior shots.
It was so visually cool though to see like when they're up close and it was dark too, so visually it was looking really, really cool.
Yeah.
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 Because one of the issues that I had, like particularly sort of like, watching it as a kid, is Dooku chopping Anakin's arm off. Because it's literally the case of Anakin stood there in his stance. He sees Dooku doing this sort of like pirouette and then cuts his arm clean off. And I always remember at the time thinking, Anakin, why did you just stand there?
Yeah.
Why did you stand there? But it's something that relates into episode 3 when we get to it.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that, Dooku was moving a hell of a lot quicker than what was being showcased on the screen. It's just it wasn't showcased properly.
Yeah.
To be honest. Dooku is defeated Obi-Wan. He's defeated Anakin, and then in comes Yoda, with probably the coolest bit of the movie, I would say. It's the lightsaber duel between Count Dooku and Yoda, because Yoda does his best impression of a 5-year-old on a sugar rush. He fucking is around like a freaking pinball, just like it's basically.
Yeah.
And it's. I realized it was supposed to be sort of like, this is a serious duel and everything like that. I couldn't help but laugh because it was just sort of like it's so ridiculous and so awesome at the same time.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And I like it as well, sort of like, Dooku realizes he's outmatched. So just sort of like, gets this great big massive sort of like, steel pylon or whatever.
Yeah.
Use the Force to try and collapse on top of like Obi-Wan and Anakin. Yoda has to save them so Dooku can make his exit. Also, there's a little bit here as well. I noticed this as a kid. When Padme brings the clone back up with them, and she fucking rushes in, she goes over to come Anakin, they fucking kiss.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right in front of Obi-Wan and right in front of Yoda. They freaking lock lips.
So, I think after that happened, I think they knew something was going on. They just didn't make it public.
Well, I mean, like, Obi-Wan definitely does.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Because, it said out there, and then when it gets to season 7. But I don't know whether it's expressly stated that Yoda has a full understanding what's going on between the two of them. But even if they did, God, there's sort of like, that's a dangerous powder keg for you to be leaving alone. And particularly with sort of like the neglect that they show to Anakin.
Yeah.
Anakin especially.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, we'll talk more about Padme and Anakin when we're doing when we talk about episode 3. We'll talk about more about that later. Because there's a cool line that I want to say, but we'll get into it later.
Okay. Attack of the Clones, I think was weaker.
Yeah.
It was definitely weaker than the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
There was bits of it that. There was bits of it I really liked. There was bits of it I thought were very cringeworthy. Like, particularly the interactions with like Anakin and Padme. Like they were very sort of like it was very sort of like hit and miss. Like there'd be a couple of times where sort of like, the chemistry was evident, and then there'd be sort of like a couple of times where sort of like awkward writing was really let it down, and it just sort of like seemed really freaking cringeworthy.
Yes.
But it's overall still I still see it as a good Star Wars movie.
Yeah, like I said, I like it, Star Wars, but it's not. I think it's my worst Star Wars movie. Before the dumpster came out, so that was Attack of the Clones is my least favorite movie, but I did enjoy it, and hold on.
Look forward to it. Well, look forward to the next bit. Well, the next road that we're going to be taking.
Yeah. So, I liked. What was I talking about? I got lost. I was gonna say, yes, I like it, but I just find it kind of boring. I mean, but then again, when you watch the Clone Wars, you kind of like you enjoy the Kaminoan scenes more and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, we'll get on to what we'll be doing for the next episode. We'll just very quickly just leave it up with sort of like, anything Q&A related. So if any of you guys out there have got any questions, any thoughts at all with what we've talked about today, make yourself known now. I'm just going to very quickly just sort of like experiment a tiny little bit to close out the show because I want to just showcase something Star Wars related that I'm probably going to be investing in sort of like the next week or so. I seem to remember like back in episode 1, Demon like popped into the stream very briefly and was sort of like talking about sort of like, oh, why don't you should have sort of like, you should showcase like lightsabers or sort of like do lightsaber battles as sort of like, as how are we going to be able to do this when we're different parts of the globe at Demon. But if I just share my screen very briefly, I've decided to bite the bullet, and I've decided that I am going to invest in a custom lightsaber, and specifically, I'm going to be going with this one if it loads up properly. Because I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to own a lightsaber. Is that loaded in properly? Because it's not come through on my. Yeah.
Is that a specific one?
So yeah, this is the. I don't know, because the thing is, it's sort of like it looks very reminiscent to, in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, where you play as Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
It seems very reminiscent of his master Jarrett Paul's lightsaber.
Yeah.
That seems to be the design of the hilt that they get for it. Because this is sort of like a variant of one I was looking out, but was looking at, but they ran out of stock on it. So they very much like popped up on their on the Pack Store website like probably 3 days ago, something like that. And I've sort of looked at it. I've looked at the finance of it, and that's something that I think I can financially do. Yep. So as I say, in the next week or so, they've got I think there's 47 of them in stock. I'm going to make an investment. I'm going to make an investment of getting my own lightsaber. It's one of those sort of it has motion sensors, all sorts of different, not only colors, but fonts as well, for specific characters. Yeah. And yeah, for somebody who's on a budget, it works out because I did a little bit of research for it. And the saber itself plus shipping, because they have to ship it from America, it works out at about 141 pounds English sterling, which is about just over $200 American dollars, which to be honest with you, it's for what you're getting, it's pretty good value. And particularly with some of the the high end lightsabers, because I've watched there's a particular Star Wars YouTuber called Star Wars Theory who does loads of lightsaber showcases. So it and those range from anything to $400 to $500, and I'm not made of money. I'm sort of on a budget. So this seems for me to be the best option that I can afford on a budget. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the investment, and then when it arrives, I'll either showcase it on the podcast or I'll do sort of a showcasing video on my YouTube channel, because I think that'll be really cool.
So, my roommate actually he got me 2 Funko Pops. So as you can see, I don't have them yet, but they should be coming very soon. If you look right here, right there.
Oh yeah, top shelf where the mug is.
Yep, that's actually baby. That's Grogu right there, Grogu mug.
Mm-hmm.
And then right there in the corner, it's hiding, but that's actually a Empire Strikes Back's lunchbox.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, hold on, I'll show you.
Cool. Yep. He's going to his collection, ladies and gentlemen. See, this is what you get with us nerds on this podcast.
So, see, you protect, you attack, take a nap. Yeah, I got a little Grogu and then Empire Strikes Back. Mug, yeah, I like this one. This one's really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's very.
I found it at one of those pop culture shops. So, yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Whenever I decide to get a house, you're gonna see a whole ass room full of stuff,
full of memorabilia and just sort of like your man cave, basically.
Yeah. I want to get a lightsaber too. See, so yeah.
Well, that's the one I'm going for anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this was always going to be a short episode because you've got stuff that you need to do. And yeah, that's pretty much all that we've got to talk about on today. I'm going to set homework, and I expect you to follow this to the letter, young Apollo. Yeah. So we mentioned at the very start of the show that this was originally going to be about the prequel trilogy, but upon recognition, there was stuff that popped up in Clone Wars that feeds into Revenge of the Sith, and I just feel that it would be best sort of like chronologically if we sort of like did it all together. So for next episode, I'm going to set the homework going for watching season 1 and season 2 of the Clone Wars. Now you feel free to watch it in what way you want, because I know in the past I've done it by just watching it sort of like the season from start to finish. I'm going to go on the quest of watching a lot of pretty much all of Clone Wars in chronological order. So it just basically means like skipping from sort of like episode to episode here and there, because the Clone Wars itself, it doesn't always do it in sort of like chronological order. Yeah. Like it gets into a state of going into chronological order the further into the show you get. But very early on, like I think the first chronological episode is like midway through like season 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't towards like season 3 is when it started making sense and being in order. Yeah. So
So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know whether Apollo will do that or not, but yeah.
I'll do my homework eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah. So we're going to come back next Sunday, or you want to wait till after I come back?
I would probably say if you're back, would you possibly be back in sort of like back home in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah. No. So like this is my last full week of work. So next Tuesday, on the 23rd, I should be coming home. 24th.
Right. Okay. Home. Yeah. Yeah. So if we give this sort of like a 2 week thing, because we've got to cram like 40 odd episodes into cramming 40 odd episodes in sort of like 1 week might be a bit of a stretch. Yeah. So I think it's better sort of like 2 weeks time. So on the, let me just get my calendar up on my laptop. If it's properly 28th, would you say? He said to no one in particular.
What's up?
So yeah, I said I'd say Sunday the 28th. Sunday the 28th. So it gives us 2 weeks to watch 2 seasons.
I shoot back. I may go on vacation, but even then, I'll figure it out. But yeah.
Well, I mean, if we have to push it back another week, we can.
I mean, if I'm on vacation, yeah, I can make it work.
Yeah, I don't expect you to. I don't expect you to be, you know, I don't expect you to be doing any homework on your vacation, man. I'm not that much of a stickler for the rules.
Well, I mean, I have a gaming laptop and a microphone. I take it anywhere, so yeah.
We'll see.
We'll
see.
Yeah.
If we aim for 2 weeks, if not, it'll be 3 weeks time.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, Apollo, as per always. Thank you, all of you in chat, for not only contributing but also for checking out the show. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and you know, whenever content is out on said channel, make sure that you're sharing it. I've also put a link down to Apollo's YouTube channel down in the description below, because by the time he's back from deployment as well as vacation, I could probably see him, like, you know, creating more content, possibly.
You're going to see me a lot more.
Cool. If you are new around here as well, if you are new here as well and you're not a member already, links for the Games Lair Discord is also available down in the description below. As well as that, there's a link for Linktree, which just basically has links to all the moderators to do with the Games Lair Discord down there. Also in there as well is a link to Gamers Lair merchandise as well. It's been on sale for a good 3 weeks or so, something like that. It's only myself and Warwolf that haven't got our own personal gear yet.
Me too.
But you as well?
No, I still haven't received it. I'll ask Quinn about it. Ask Quinn and Demon about it.
Yeah, because I know it's available on the store, but
yeah,
it's available on the store.
Mm.
Yeah, because I know that me and Wolf's merchandise isn't available.
Oh no, I think you meant like the shirts everyone got.
Yeah. I haven't put in an order yet because you know I'm poor, basically. Yeah. But yeah, all the links down below. You know, sort of like for not only us two, but also the Games Lair community as well. If you're not a member already, make sure that you joined. It's a great community that's growing more and more by the day, and it'd be great to have you all. Any closing plugs that you want to give before we
first things first, don't forget to like, subscribe button, click on notification, be the first one to give an amazing first comment, and you come join that Discord. Link will be in the description below. Catch y'all later. Thank you for stepping back.
Have you ever thought about being an auctioneer? Because you could probably do it at that speed.
All right. I'll catch y'all later, man. Yeah. I don't know.
All right, guys. So,
going once, going twice, asshole.
Right, guys. Until next time. Hopefully, we'll see you next time. It's a peace out from me, Loggers, and Apollo. And remember, the Force will be with you always.
This is the way.